I'm here today with Mayor Terry Hailey. Mayor Hailey is an Obion County native, son of the late Mr. and Mrs. Lester Hailey. The Haileys owned and operated Hailey Hardware on the Troy Square for over 40 years. Mayor Hailey's on his 18th consecutive term as mayor with 35 years in service. He has owned and operated a successful local radio business for over 42 years, known as Wink Broadcast, that operated under the call letters KF99, KQ105. They were based out of Union City and Paris and covered the surrounding areas. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today, Mayor.
Glad to.
Your parents were highly thought of, well respected in the local community. Can you tell us what values they passed on to you that you carry with you today as an adult and ultimately as a small business owner and a community leader?
Well, my mom and dad were just really pillars of the community. They had one of my mother's from Marmaduke, Arkansas. My dad's from Elbridge, Tennessee, and they both, like so many people did when they were after their high school, they went to Memphis. And that's where they met each other. And Dad was wanted to have his own business, so he bought this business in Troy, Hailey's Hardware, and operated it for almost 50 years. I think he got to like 49, and then his health got to where he couldn't do it anymore. But he was very community minded. He was the main thing about him was he had great faith. I'd have to say that's what was his overall greatest attribute. Gosh, we were in church every Sunday morning, and we learned we learned the way it was supposed to be. I'm not sure we always did what we were supposed to do, but we learned the way it was supposed to be. And Dad was so involved in everything. Dad was the former of the Obion County Grand Jury for 25 years. He was the chairman of the Obion County Hospital Board, and was on the county court for I don't know how many years. He just was a fixture there. But my mother and dad ran a kind of business that catered to people, and they were always willing to serve no matter what the situation was. Case in point, I remember one morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, it's about probably 20 degrees, 15 or 20 degrees outside, and this woman called from 3 miles out of town, and her electricity was off, and Daddy went out at 3 a.m. and changed a fuse in the fuse box. So that's the kind of people they were. So I had a really good upbringing as far as really good people, but I think faith was their overall best attribute.
Well, as you think about those lessons that you learned in your youth from the examples they set for you, how would you apply those lessons to your careers today? Would you pass any of those experiences on to any of today's youth or future generations?
Sure. Well, I think in my business, in the broadcasting business, I think the main thing we always tried to do was be fair. And of course, we had the commercial side of the business, and we had the entertainment side of the business, and we had the news side of the business, and we just always tried to be fair and provide somebody a really good product for the money that they spend. And we tried our best to have as many listeners as we possibly could, and we tried to make sure our news coverage was fair and balanced. And those service to our customers and service to the community were the bylines of that. And if you do that in the broadcasting business, you're going to probably be a winner. And the more local you can be is certainly a good thing too. We tried to be completely local.
Sure, that's good advice. Well, as I mentioned, as we've discussed, you owned a small business, a local business for a little over 42 years. You were a local personality and a familiar voice to several folks on the radio all across Obion, Henry County, and the surrounding areas. Tell us what that career meant to you.
Well, I just had fun. I think anytime any job that you have, if you don't enjoy it, if it's not fun to you, you need to get yourself another job. So that's I always looked at it as being fun. I enjoyed getting up and going to work, and I enjoyed the camaraderie of the people who work there with us, and I just enjoyed the whole experience. I enjoyed the advertising part of it, but the entertainment part of it I really probably enjoyed the most, and I look forward to going to work every day. I think that's the most important thing. I think you just have to be happy with what you do, and it shows if you do, and it shows if you don't.
So I would say over the span of 40 plus years, any industry would change, but there's been some drastic changes in the radio industry in that time. Can you tell us, in your opinion, how those changes impact local communities and local businesses today?
Well, I think the main thing is there's not as much coverage of local things as there used to be. Most radio stations, mine included, in order to save money, became automated. And the more automated they became, the less local they became. And the disc jockeys go in and cut voice tracks, and they could do a 6-hour show in 20 or 30 minutes. Well, when you do that, you lose the ambiance of the listeners that you have, and when you do that, you lose the weather and all of the other things that go with being local. You might notice now that we used to have in Obion County, everybody pretty much knew everything that was going on as far as news was concerned, but now the radio station is not local.
Right.
And the newspaper's one day a week, and everything has just changed from the way that it used to be, and the result is not nearly as much coverage of local things as there used to be. So that's I think the main thing. And automation, I think, has been, and voice tracks, that is the pre-recording of things, I think that's been the worst thing that's happened to broadcasting. On the other hand, it was getting to be too expensive to operate. So that's the reason for it, obviously.
Well, you spent many years on the radio live every morning.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So tell me the most memorable or the most funny story that you can think of from
Oh,
those years.
geez, I don't know. We had lots of things. We had this program on our FM stations were music intensive, but our AM station, we did just, a little bit of everything. And one of the things we did was a swap shop. And a swap shop was an interesting thing where people call in, buy, sell, trade. Most local communities have one. And we had a guy call in one time and looking for a wife. And he would call back like every day, and Channel 6 got wind of it. They came down here, and they recorded me on the swap shop talking to this guy about getting a wife. And so anyway, Channel 6 ended up feeding it to the Today Show, which ran it nationally.
Okay.
And when they ran it nationally, people started calling this guy from like everywhere, from like Montana, California, you name it. It was a real trip. But there's so many funny things that have happened on the.
I can only imagine.
In a radio station that it'd be hard to list them all, but that's one that always comes to mind.
Did you find him a wife?
He got lots of calls. I don't know whether. And we didn't get the local calls so much as he got the calls from like California and New Mexico and whatever. But it was pretty interesting.
Well, again, as we mentioned before, you've been involved in local government for many, many years. You've been considered a respected leader of the community. And your time in office describes some of the major changes that you've seen in our community. And in your opinion, what are some of those most influential changes?
Well, obviously, in a community like ours, you want to have the as many good services for the people who live here as you possibly can, which means jobs. And I think jobs are the overwhelming thing that we're always interested in. We, of course, we're a town that has grown. When I was growing up, we relied on one huge industry, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And when they went out, when they didn't go out, they just left. So when they left town, we were set with a whole bunch of jobs that we needed to fill. And I think we've done a pretty good job of finding smaller industries to cover that. Of course, one that came before that was Tyson. That was a major get for our community back in the early '90s. But there's so many, like Greenfield Products came. Williams Sausage expanded. Titan Tire came to replace Goodyear, not with nearly as many people working, but same thing's true. We got there's Kohler and there's the chair company. I think we've got so many things that replaced them, and it's always good to have a bunch of baskets to put you folks in, and then to just have one.
Right.
So that's we have recovered, I think, from that. Pretty well. So jobs has been most important. We have a really good Industrial Development Corporation board and Chamber of Commerce that works really well toward that end. And retail, we've been working to provide as best retail choices as we possibly can, and recreational opportunities. We've got just about everything but a golf course. So and of course there's several golf courses around, but some people have municipal golf courses, but we've got baseball, we've got soccer, we've got we're fixing to have pickleball, and I don't know. We've got just about everything as far as those are concerned. We even got 2 fishing ponds. So I mean, it's trying to provide as much community service for people as we possibly can, while at the same time keeping their taxes as low as we possibly can. And thanks to our retail community, particularly a couple of big box stores, Walmart and Lowe's, and then add everybody else with it too. Our tax revenues from state sales taxes and our local sales tax has really kept us from having to raise property taxes as much as a lot of communities have had
That's
to
good.
do.
That's always good.
Oh yeah.
Well, in all your years in public service, what would you consider your greatest accomplishment while you were in local government?
Oh gee, I know, keeping the peace. I think, and I always preface this by saying it could all go downhill tomorrow. I know that's true, and if something could happen that would be catastrophic, I know that. But I think over my tenure, we really haven't had much controversy, and the community has worked together to bring about the things that we've needed to do, and the council gets along very well with each other, and we've been able to agree on most everything. And that's the mark, I think, of a well-run city. We've been blessed with a couple of good city managers too. So I think just keeping down the controversy and keeping the peace has been probably the accomplishment that I'm most proud of.
That's a prized accomplishment for sure.
It is that.
Well, I hope you have many more years of community service ahead of you. But
surely this has got to come to an end sooner or later.
Is there anything left that you want to accomplish before you exit
catch a
the
few
mayor's
more
office?
fish than I do, I guess. As far as the mayor's office is concerned, well, if it was just left up to me, I think the saddest moment that I had as far as the city was concerned was when we closed the municipal swimming pool. I just can't get over that, because a lot of folks, people who really need the swimming pool don't have access to one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we built a splash pad and that kind of thing, but that's a cheap imitation of a swimming pool. So I wish we had not had to close the Olympic size swimming pool, but it was going to have some major renovations, and swimming pools are not as prevalent as they used to be. But I wish we could, frankly, build another one. I wish we could do that, but I don't know where the funds are going to come from to do that, and there are things that I'm sure that are ahead of it on what people would do. But I miss not having that opportunity for the community to have that. And I just noticed UT Martin's closing theirs, and that's I just think that's one of the parts of a community. When I was growing up, there was all kinds of swimming pools around. You could go and take the kids and do whatever. But that's one of the saddest things I think that happened when we did that.
Well, I think that we're about out of time for the interview today, but I really do appreciate you coming in and passing on those experiences and advice to us. And thank you very much for your time.
Sure.